I represent a country which is multicultural, multi-religious. There are Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, everybody. And we all live peacefully together. Don't worry about the politician, handful of politicians and handful of the hate-monger journalists, but we all love each other. So, this is a paper which is being co-written with one of my friends, Shaista Masih. And the title of the paper is A Correlation of Oriental and Occidental Mysticism, Dalgate and William Blake. So we have taken two mystics. One is Dalgate, a Kashmiri poet, and the other is William Blake. I hope you must have read William Blake, British poet from 19th century. So you must have known that India is a land of mysticism. And this mysticism is not confined to one religion. There are mystics belonging to Hindus and Muslims. There have been many philosophers, sages and saints in the Oriental world since ancient time. And so mostly people in the Oriental world believe mysticism to be confined to their world. But that is not true. As the history of mysticism in the Oriental world also dates, Occidental world also date back to the ancient time. Mysticism, which literally means the unification with God, has its root in ancient Greek, also like India. So in this paper, we will be discussing about what is mysticism, origin of mysticism, development of mysticism, Kashmirian and mysticism, Laldev as mystic, William Blake as mystic. So there have been mysticism in the Occidental world, that means Western world. It has its origin in Greek. So, what is mysticism? Mysticism means the unification of human heart with the essence of absolute, the divine, could not be confined to any place or religion, even era. There have been mysticism in the ancient time, in the medieval time, and even in the modern time, though it is now less. From time to time, in a different part of the world, there have been many philosophers and seers who have served the world with their mystical approach. So we will be discussing two mystical poets in this. And the research, the purpose of this research is to launch our discourse on how mysticism as a thought and belief travel from one part of the world to completely other. How can we compare mysticism of Oriental world with the Occidental world? And so we have taken poets from different era, like Laldev belongs to 14th century and William Blake belongs to the Romantic age, means 19th century. So, this we have already discussed. And so one cannot limit consciousness and experience, especially when it is non-sensory. That is why the unification of the human heart with the essence of the absolute, the divine, could never be confined to a place and era. Mankind has been trying to comprehend this ultimate truth of this universe and acquire a knowledge that could lead to this truth. A few have been able to attain that unification with divine. This unification with divine is mysticism, means spirituality. Since the era when mysticism took its origin, there have been many seers, especially in the Oriental world, who have guided the world with their mystical approach, leading the people towards the real essence of love and devotion. Mysticism, to put in the most ornamented way, is unification with God. Like religion, it is a practice, but it is not an organized practice. It has no set method of prayer to attain union with the Absolute. And mysticism has its roots in ancient Greek. In Greek, it means to reveal, to disclose. The Greek philosopher Diogenes of Apollonia brought mysticism in Greek philosophy. It was in the 5th century. The development took place in other ancient religions on the basis of their respective religious premises. Although mysticism is confined, considered a scion of spiritual realization of man rather than religions. Scholars around the world have always believed that mysticism experiences are mostly religious as they possess nature as their object. However, Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, and many other religions have mysticism in their attribute. As one of the scholars, Sturgeon, say, I quote, the term mysticism encompasses the experiences, the tradition, practice, ritual, doctrine, etc. comprises comprising and associated with their various religious paths. He also believed that mysticism designates a set of phenomena that comprises mystical experience and those aspects of religious tradition that promote the occurrence of such experience. A person who is considered as mystic believes things in the world which are beyond the reach of an ordinary person, or in other terms for them, it is not real. Mostly they are religious practitioners who consciously try to explore an experience which is ultimately real and who apprehend an experience which is non-ordinary and which appears to be permitted as paramount real experience. But Kant, another scholar, has totally different views on mysticism, as he depicted mystic as committing one or sometimes both of two errors, either wrong delusion about the critical philosophy limit on what we can know, or delirium, abusing its limit on how we can employ feeling. So, there are lots of variation of mysticism, like in different religions have different concepts. In shamanism, Western mysticism, Jewish mysticism, Islamic mysticism, and Indic religion. Indic religion are the religion of India, which have been originated in India, like Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism. So different religions have different types of mystical tradition. Like in shamanism, which is possessed of one of the world's oldest mystical tradition, as it is a system of religious practice. Its origin is mostly connected with native, indigenous, and tribal culture. The follower of shamanism, irrespective of gender, is known as shaman and is believed to be connected with the divine world, meaning she possesses spiritual power which can heal the sick, can communicate with spirit, and even escort people who have died to their afterlife. Then in Western mysticism, which can be classified into two segments, pagan philosophy and Christian philosophy. Before Christians, they were pagans in the Western world also. So scholars have often defined it as a comprehensive range of relatively connected opinion and movement that have evolved in the Oriental world. It has its impact on all the field and continue to regulate intellectual proposition and popular culture. In Western mysticism, there has been a tendency since the last 2000 years to explore the form and content of our natural world as a way to connect with the divine. Then mysticism is Islam has originated in two distinct and autonomous ways. Sufism is the mystical and purest form of Islam, but it developed as a later stage. As with the advent of Islam, mysticism has been traditionally associated with the concept of hikmah, a combination of wisdom and philosophy. It is believed that the antecedent of mystical component in Islam can be delineated from the holy text of Islam, the Quran, and in Islamic principle. Mystic and Islamic philosopher has regarded some of the Quranic verse known as ayat as a fine example of mysticism. Then coming to Indic religion. Indic religion means Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism, which have been originated in India. They all are in these religions. They also term a dharmic religion, which believe in the concept of dharma. Dharma means duty. Though these dharmic have many commonality related to the belief and the medium of worship, even some god also, but there are differences in opinion on various issues. Still, they live in close vicinity. There are festivals which are commonly celebrated among them. Like currently, India is celebrating the Shera, which is common in three religions. Mysticism in Hinduism means overcoming ignorance and the concept of moksha in the afterlife. It is also acquiring knowledge. For this, there are many interconnected aesthetic, conventional and philosophical school in Hinduism, where objective is moksha and the ascension of divinity. Then another is yoga. Yoga is becoming popular all over the world. Yoga. It is actually in Hindi it is called as yoga. Hindi or Sanskrit is called as yoga, but in English we call it yoga. So, which is a physical, mental, and spiritual practice whose motive is attainment of spiritual peace. Stuart Ray Sarbacker, in his book Samadhi, the numinous and sensitive in Indo-Tibetan yoga, divided all three religions Hinduism, Buddhism and Jainism possess various traditions of yoga. Then Sikhism is a religion which was founded by Guru Nanak Dev. It is they have a holy text which is very much inspired by Quran also, and they believe to have encountered intense mystical experience in childhood. Robin Lebron has argued that as a mystic, Guru Nanak is assumed to emphasize that Guru must be seen through the inward eyes or from the heart of an individual. So, there have been lots of development in the field of mysticism in different parts of the world, in the doctrine also, and like different scholars have different opinion about it. So, in coming to the 20th century, it is a very long paper, but since we have paucity of time, so I'm summing it up. Mysticism flourished in the 20th century with mystic in their schools, thoughts, and modern development of it came with a new kind of participation. They were around the world searching for the true meaning of life and the way to connect it with the absolute divine. It was an era of Rabindranath Tagore, Paramahansa Yogananda, and Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation of India, Frederick Vaughan Buell, Thomas Kelly, Martin Luther King, Ruth Barrow, John Wayne, Karl Rahner. The galaxy of Mystic Valley has precious star to enlighten the world. But before that, we have many mystic poet also. I hope you must be familiar with Jalaluddin Rumi. He is a Persian poet. He wrote actually three countries, Turkey, Iran and Afghanistan, all the three countries they claim Rumi to be their poet. But basically he was born in some place in Persia. The thing is that geographical boundaries changes with the passage of time. He wrote in Persian, but he died in a place called Konya in Turkey, and he wrote in Persian. So his teaching of poem were limited, confined to the Persian world. But when it started translating, it was translated into English. His mystical poem, mystical quote, now have been translated into English, and it is now Rumi is now the most widely read poet all around the world. Even in the United States of America, they love Rumi, they read Rumi. He is more popular around the world. In India also he is very popular. And in the same tradition, we have a poet, Kabir. He also writes in the same tradition as Rumi has written, the same spiritual mystic tradition. And India is a land where we had many mystic poets. There have been Amir Khusro, who had his origin from Uzbekistan. His parents went to India. He is also considered a mystic poet. Then there is Mirabai. So we have a very good tradition, a mystic tradition of poetry. So coming to Kashmir. Kashmir is considered as one of the most beautiful places on earth. It is considered as a heaven on earth. And the term Kashmirian means communal harmony or a synthesis of many cultures residing peacefully. This is the centuries-old indigenous tradition of Kashmir, though the scene in Kashmir seems to be completely different now. But everything is not what it appears. Kashmirian is the Himalayan valley of Kashmir, emerged around the 16th century, making it a land of religious and cultural harmony, synthesizing patriotism and pride. It was a time when both the Hindus and Muslims joined hands to celebrate their festival together and share a common language, cuisine and clothing, making a common culture for the native irrespective of religion. It is Kashmirian where we see folk of both the religions celebrating festival of each communities, and this common culture was promoted by Kashmiri king Zainul Abidin. Laldev and Alamdar Kashmir are such fine examples who are deeply loved and respected by both the community. See, Laldev is a poet who is called as Lalleshwari by Hindus and Lal Arifa by Muslim, but togetherly in common Kashmiri culture she is called as Laldev. Laldev is a word which is common for both Hindus and Muslims. So, Stansel in his book The Unity of Mystical Traditions tried to prove that mystical doctrine and practices initiate parallel transformative processes in the consciousness of mystic. This can be true only for the same philosopher but also for the poet. So Laldev is one such name which is though not well known globally but is very popular and respected name in Kashmir. In Kashmir it is a household name. So she is a fine example of rural sensibility which Kashmir has nurtured since century. In the literary culture, she is famous as Lal Dev, which in native language means grandmother Lal. In literary sense, it means Lal the Home. In oral tradition, she is also popular with name Lalla. As critic Ranjit has put a quote about her, to the outer world, Lal Dev is arguably Kashmir's best known spiritual and literary figure within Kashmir. She has been venerated both by Hindus and Muslims for nearly 7 centuries. For most of that period, she has successfully eluded the proprietorial claim of a religious monopolist. In colloquial terms, her poems are called Vaks, which are considered as the earlier instinct of Kashmiri literature. It was a time when Kashmiri language was developing as a modern language. In Kashmiri popular culture, a total of 258 works have been popular since the 14th century in the form of song, proverbs, and prayer. This is quite similar to Amir Khusro, whose origin is Uzbekistan, and his songs and verbs are proverbs are still famous in India in our household. So most of the works of Laldev have common theme running in them, and some of them are even in the form of question and answer. They provoke listener to be thoughtful and respond towards it. She has used simple and lucid language, which is easily understandable, but with a deep meaning, subjective and almost inexpressible. Laldev is credited in developing Kashmiri language, and in this way she has helped Kashmiri to discover their mother tongue. In her lifetime, she tried to abridge the difference between common man and elite class, and has encouraged common people to communicate within themselves. Her contribution to the Kashmiri linguistic tradition is the transition from old to the modern Kashmiri language reflected in the verse known as Vak. He argues that her works are the oldest illustration of Kashmiri language. It is believed that psychological turmoil was the main reason behind the holistic and spiritual life of Lal Dev. Being born in a Brahmin family.
I apologize for interrupting you, I'm sorry, but the time is...
So we have already discussed Lal Dev, and now I will be discussing about William Blake. I think some of the students must have studied William Blake.
Yeah, we studied William Blake.
Then there is a mysticism in some of the poems. Though William Blake is a nature poet, but there are some mysticism in William Blake also. He is considered as the precursor of Romantic movement, which occurred in the 19th century. He was a poet and a spiritual visionary, influenced by Swedenborg, whose doctrine stated that the God passes in his being everything that is present on the face of this galaxy, whether hidden or manifest in God, and that his power is limitless. In his like mystic, he believed that religion could not be programmed in prayer and relegated to a building such as a church. To him, religion is not performed but experienced by one's imagination that should be pure and untwisted to feel it. I'm giving some example of his poem in which we think there is mysticism. In his poem Divine Image, he mentioned 4 human virtues: mercy, pity, peace, and love. These virtues are the connecting juncture between a human heart and divine. The heart that has these virtues has God residing in it. To collaborate, human beings could have that divine light in them, nourishing these human virtues. Similarly, in the Garden of Love, he has hinted of descent from the contemporary structural form of religion. He believed in restriction-free and command-free religious practice. Since God abode is the human heart, love toward God could be realized easily by love instead of following a strict religious protocol. In his This poem says that trees in black gowns are acting as guard of the chapel, and they are driving out the joys of poet. The church should be a place of love to prosper, not restrict it. And so in his poem Lamb also we see that he is conversing about the creator who is kindest of all. He is as tender as his creation like lamb. And then so like a true mystic, William Blake sees the beauty of God in mundane and connecting him through his creation. True relationship with divine could be established with the factor of frightening his friends away from the human heart. The God who made a kind, soft, delicate being as a lamb is easily approachable by human being. So, and again in his poem Marriage Between Heaven and Hell, he seeks a balance between good and evil. The presence of both will let goodness progress in this world. So, in the end, in the contemporary scenario, we see that mysticism is declining from the world as people are becoming more and more materialistic. They are forgetting moral values as well as ethic and becoming more and more corrupt. But in olden days, from the ancient times to the last century, there have been innumerable mystics who had abandoned their comfortable life and wandered in forest and mountain in search of knowledge and divinity. In this paper, we have discussed Lalgate and William Blake. Though these two belong to two different countries and era, but the most importantly, two cultural polarity, Oriental and Occidental world. But one thing is precisely common in them, and that is mysticism. It is mysticism which connects them most importantly because they have both in their poetry, making it pure and aesthetic. Thank you, Rahmat.
Thank you, Professor, for making a very informative speech. Listeners updated their knowledge about mysticism in different cultures with the resourceful information given by you. Thank you again.